Alrighty, let's talk about shock therapy. Now, I am not talking about ECT, electroconvulsive therapy, though in a similar fashion, the results from ECT are designed to create a shock to enact a change in the brain. And in the same way, a lot of the shock tactics, the shock methods that I use do exactly the same, but not just for the brain, but for the body as well. Now, ECT, as a side note, is still used, electroconvulsive therapy, in the treatment of bipolar and depression, but it's a treatment that's offered or sought when all else fails. Now, back to shock therapy. What do I do? Well, obviously the typical one that I spout all the time is cold therapy. And I do believe it has a strengthening of both body and mind. And it's that shock to the body that causes your body to adapt. That shock of the cold causes your body and brain to go, okay, so if this is going to keep happening, I need to be better equipped. I need to start activating that brown fat to burn the white fat for fuel. So therein lies one of the many benefits, of course, of cold therapies. That shock acts as a huge benefit to create adaptation. When you think of hormesis, which is very much the idea that in low doses, toxins and stressors typically act as a benefit to the body and the mind in humans. And I'm definitely a big believer in this. So let's look at the other forms of shock that I do, that I certainly believe to have a huge benefit on the body. The next one would be HIIT exercise. Now, as you know, my exercise is done wherever I feel I'm in the right place to do some form of exercise. It could be at home when I'm making a cup of tea or coffee. It could be whilst I'm walking Winston and I see a branch that looks good as a pull-up bar. It could be that the long hill ahead of me I choose to run up rather than walk. And those short bursts of activity, I know, act as a huge gain, a benefit on the body, causing it to adapt. Now, the other thing that I know is good, but again, I don't think we should do too much of this, is of course endurance. And that of course is a shock to the body and mind. So my 2 days of gardening are typically 8 hours of heavy lifting, pushing, pulling, digging, swinging, not in that sense. So I know that has a huge adaptation on, or causes a huge adaptation on the body. I have had to assess how I fuel those days, which is different to other days where I'm typically fasting, for example. But I know therefore that it is beneficial, and I felt my body gain strength in doing those couple of days of endurance, because effectively that's what those days are. I'm typically not just planting plants. I'm employed to do all the proper manual labor, and I love it. Now, one of the things that I'm not certain of is that I don't think our bodies were designed to run 24 miles. Now, I've done endurance races in the past. I've enjoyed them, and I think it's a great goal, target to set yourself to see if you can do it. But I don't think our bodies were designed to do it on a regular basis. If you think about it from an evolutionary perspective, it is more likely as humans, our bodies were meant to be used for short bursts of activity. You know, a short burst to catch that animal for tonight's dinner, a short burst of activity in order to fight off the neighboring tribe. I think that's what our bodies are meant for. Of course, there are certain sections of society, certain sections of human race today where their bodies are better equipped to run long distances, and they're perfectly capable of doing it. I'm just raising a question. I don't know for certain, but I'm of the opinion that I don't know whether we were meant to do it. But either way, a period of endurance is good. A period of high stress is good. And of course, you don't want it to be chronic stress, but if your job is stressful, but not all the time, it's probably quite good for you. In that, again, it causes your brain to go, okay, I need to pump more neurochemicals to deal with this situation. I need to get a much better night's sleep in order to be better equipped to deal with the stress the next day. Of course, when it moves into that chronic territory, that's when it's not so good for the body. In fact, it's pretty damn terrible for the body. As I mentioned a minute ago, certainly fasting is a great stressor on the body in the sense, well, it's both, isn't it? It gives your body a break, it gives your digestive system a break, but it acts as it can be a bit of a stressor in the sense that certainly initially when you get into fasting, you're being told this message that you're hungry all the time. But I know it to be of a huge benefit to my body and mind. So there are many ways of shocking your body, and I think this is a great way of going about your day. You know, wake up the next day, wake up tomorrow and think, how can I do short bouts of shock or stress on my body using those variety of methods that I've suggested. I've certainly figured out that it's all about intention that determines how each day goes. If you wake up and you just go about your day in a kind of a subconscious fashion and go about your normal daily routine, it may well be that your day doesn't go as well as planned. However, if you wake up and you set yourself an intention. My intention today is to flow through the day. My intention today is to engage my senses in the cold, in nature. My intention today is to create a few shocks to my body and mind because I know that my body and mind will thank me for it. A lot of this stuff is counterintuitive. It doesn't always feel right initially, but again, it's taken me a few years to figure this all out, but I'm definitely of the belief that all of this makes a big difference. There we go. Yano, this one's for you, by the way. You mentioned in your kind comment that it's lovely to see me out walking in nature again. So thank you, sir, for your kind comment, and thank you to everybody else that's been watching. I hope that helps. Evolution of Dave signing off.